Welcome to my Resident Evil 2 Remake guide. Here's a list of timestamps to take you to whatever portion of the game that you want to learn about. Firstly, we have out-of-game setup, so you can get to running with all the tools we use during our speedruns. Next, we have a brief talk about in-game settings, such as key bindings and graphic settings. After that is an introduction to the most important movement tactics you'll want to learn. Then I will go over the routing that we take to complete the game in the fastest manner possible. This includes what items we need to pick up, how to avoid the difficult enemies, and emergency heals for when things go wrong. Finally, to note, the video will cycle between simple routing to more advanced tricks I picked up from my time playing the game. At many points during the video, you will be able to choose to go on to the next section of the game or learn more about the section that you are on. Hey folks. For the longest time, I've been wanting to make an in-depth guide for this game, and since I've decided to quit running it for the time being, now is the best time for me to give it a shot. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments or join the RE2 Remake Discord, which is linked at the top of the description. Thank you. The category I've decided to make a guide for is Leon A Standard. This category is played at 120 FPS. The reason I decided to go with this category is because it's the most simple and straightforward, and the one most people go to when they learn the game. Unfortunately, we can't just jump into the game immediately because the game requires a downpatch for faster stair skates and to correct some weird AI changes that happened when Capcom added ray tracing. Luckily, it is very easy and only takes 5 minutes. To downpatch, go to your Steam library, right-click on Resident Evil 2 Remake, go to Properties, click on the Betas tab, and opt in to the DirectX 11 non-ray tracing version. This will correct stair skates and some weird enemy AI changes to G2 and a licker in the West Hall. The last thing before we can officially start running the game is to limit your FPS to 120. We do this because the damage of the knife is tied to FPS, and thus the game would be very pay to win if there was no limit. 120 was the chosen limit by community members. You can limit your frames via your GPU software or using this method I'm about to show you. I'll link another video in the description that goes over how to do it with your GPU software, but it's specifically for NVIDIA GPUs. For the method I'm going to show you, you need to go here, this website, which is also linked in the description, and download RivaTuner right here. You also need to download MSI Afterburner. Once you have both of those downloaded, you can pull up RivaTuner, add Resident Evil 2, which I've already done here, but you would find the folder. I went to the wrong place in my computer. Here we go. Find the exe, add. It's already there, so it didn't add it again, but there it is. And you can cap your frames right here. The other video linked in the description is made by another community member who's very helpful. His name is DesChain. His video goes much more in depth on how to set this up. Now that we have everything set up to officially run the game, it is also important to mention the other two things that every runner uses when speedrunning this game. First, we have Livesplit, which you can download here. This is linked in the description, as will be everything from this point on. This is a timer that is used for virtually all speedrunning, and for this game it comes with an auto splitter, so you don't have to worry about splitting the timer while running. Finally, we have the SRT, which displays enemy and player HP, as well as your inventory and DA, or difficulty adjustment. This can be downloaded from this GitHub page. For any and all questions regarding setup and usage for this, you can refer to the RE2 Remake Discord server. Several people would be happy to help answer your questions. Once you've downloaded it, you can open up the plugin manager, click on SRT host, scroll through the supported games section until you find Resident Evil 2 Remake. You can download it here, and then open the game, and you should be able to run it from there, run the SRT. Again, any questions, please refer to the Resident Evil 2 Remake Discord server, again linked in the description. Now that we have everything sorted out with setup, let's open the game and do some more. Now that your game is open, you must make sure that you display your FPS on screen for your speedrun to be validated by the mods. You can do this using RivaTuner like I have here in the bottom right corner, or you can do it through Steam by holding Shift Tab, navigating to the settings menu right here, and displaying FPS here, in-game FPS counter, put it in the top right, and there we go. If need be, you can change your graphic settings here. Image quality is one setting that particularly increases FPS with a very strong hit to visual quality. These settings are going to be largely dependent on your system. For reference, I have a Radeon RX 5700 XT GPU and a Ryzen 7 5700X CPU. So here are my settings. Here are my keybinds as well. I'll quickly go over which ones are most important, but your keybinding should above all else be what is most comfortable for you. Interact is going to be the most commonly used. Pause on Q is super comfortable for me because I find escape really annoying to reach for when skipping cutscenes. Confirm is going to be the second most important bind. It's going to be mashed a lot, so make sure it's something easy to hit for you. These two down here are relatively unimportant, but they are used for the signal modulator puzzles and labs, and thus can be changed for small optimization. Now that we're finally playing the video game, I'm going to show you a few important movement techniques that save a large amount of time over the course of the run. Firstly, let's go over shift boosts. A shift boost is an interesting mechanic that allows your character to reach their max velocity faster than normal. Performing one perfectly can save up to 0.15 seconds each time and can be done approximately 70 to 80 times throughout the run. You may notice if you hold shift and then begin to hold W that your character will lunge forward. This is slower than doing the opposite, holding W and then pressing shift. No matter how long you've been holding W, your character will immediately go into the highest velocity state rather than doing the slower lunge animation. This can be used at any point where you are prevented from moving, i.e. using keys on doors, at the end of cutscenes, and after other interactions that take away your control. So here's an example with the gas station section. You can notice if you do the regular running animation, no shift boost, you will always get to the door in 5.18 or 5.17 with a perfect line, or maybe higher if you don't have a perfect line, of course. But when you do a shift boost, that is how you get to the door faster. So in the clip, I get a 5.06. Perfect is 5.02, but 5.02 is like an absurdly difficult to get. I'd say 5.03 is a bit more reasonable, but it still requires a perfect timed shift boost. A quick turn is a method of changing your character's direction by 90 or 180 degrees almost instantly. In this example, I want to go turn this corner as quick as possible, so when I reach the turn, I will let go of W very briefly, tap D and aim at around the same time to point myself to the right. Here you can see me doing the same thing, except using S and aim to turn Leon 180 degrees. This is used for dodging enemies, particularly Mr. X, and occasionally for zombies. Last but not least, quick turning can be used to open doors quickly and orient your character at the same time. We want to make one small change to the quick turn for doors. Instead of tapping the direction and aiming, we can just simply tap the direction once we are close enough to the door. Stairskating is a trick that involves canceling the animation that Leon and Claire do when going up or down stairs. To perform these, simply tap aim while holding forward on stairs in a rhythm of one tap every half a second. The shorter your tap, the faster you will go. Finally, the last movement technique I'll show off is one that has the fewest use cases, but it does save time, and incorporating it into your muscle memory early on will have strong benefits down the road when pursuing very optimized times. This tech is called a shot boost. It is essentially performing a shift boost after shooting. Normally after you let go of aim, you will do the same stumble animation that happens when you begin running without doing a shift boost. However, if you let go of shift when you begin aiming and then hold it again as soon as you stop aiming, you will do a clean transition from firing to running. Now that I'm finished explaining the general movement stuff, we are going to move on to the routing/tips portion of the video. If you have any questions regarding movement, I'd be happy to give a more detailed explanation to whatever you might have trouble with. Feel free to leave questions in the comments, send me a DM on Discord, or send a message in the RE2 Remake Discord. Thank you very much, and I hope you are enjoying the video so far. Welcome to the routing portion of the video. With this part of the guide, I hope to concisely introduce you to the route that we take to complete the game in the fastest manner possible. I will be speeding up portions of the video that are going to be largely irrelevant, like running from point A to point B, but I will focus in on certain important moments and comment on them when they come up to make it more engaging and informative, rather than just telling you to watch someone's run. The gas station is a good test of the things you've learned in terms of movement. So far we've made use of 2 shift boosts, one after skipping the 2 opening cutscenes, and one just after we reach the entrance. Another shift boost is used right at the freezer door, followed by a quick turn towards the key. Here we arrive at the first set of stairs in the run. A good way of memorizing the rhythm of stair skates is to count how many times I aim when going up the stairs. For these 2 sets, I do 3 taps for each. These 2 zombies coming up will often act differently, so to avoid having to constantly reset this early into the game, take the lines shown in the video. They are slightly slower than optimal, but in my opinion, it's best to leave the small time saves for later on. Here we can make use of an interesting trick by holding down one of our interact buttons, E in my case, and mashing the other one to move this locker as soon as it becomes possible. The keyboard overlay in the bottom left is important for picking up on some small things like this. After this cutscene with Elliot at the shutter, we do a shift boost to the right and then pause. The reason this is done is because the zombie bursting through the door is on a timer that progresses even while the game is paused, thus saving some in-game time. Here we've made it to another heavy reset point early on. At this section you're required to use proper stair skating and quick turns to make it up these stairs quickly, while also throwing a zombie in the mix. This zombie has about 4 unique patterns, but 90% of the time it will be 2 simple ones. He will either yell to alert you that he is active and has seen you, or he will stay quiet and be easier to shoot. This just takes a bit of practice to get used to, so don't be discouraged if you have trouble with this. Also make sure to grab the spade key here, don't want to forget that. Now we've come to one of 3 of the medallion puzzles. These are in my opinion the most important and most difficult puzzles. The solution for them is the same each time, but the starting position changes for each run. To fully memorize these, you have to recognize 15 different symbols per medallion. If you'd like to practice these outside of the game, you can use this practice tool made by Joydern. Once you've reached the helicopter crash cutscene, we are going to discard the gas station key and move our handgun into a slot that is out of the way. Either slot 7 or 8 works. Then we can pick up the bolt cutters and they will go straight into the first slot. Next in this room we have two key item pickups, the round handle and the electrical fuse. Be careful with this zombie, he can grab you if you take an improper line. This next zombie as well can be in numerous positions. This one is fine, but occasionally he can be right around the corner coming up, so make sure you are playing safe and have an opportunity to shoot him. At this door we use the bolt cutters for the third and final time. After we finish that, we can discard them, pick up the detonator, and pick up the flash in this room. Occasionally as well, this cop zombie outside the door can be aggressive, and in that case you may have to shoot him. We're coming up on the first licker in the run here, but before that we need to insert the battery into the detonator from the stars room. This is one of the more luck-based portions of the run because of how erratic it can act. I'll explain in greater detail how to avoid some of its attacks later, but for now it is important to note that staring at the licker will slow it down and make it lick you quite often. Here I take a slash attack because of a poor reaction on my part, and that's not too big of a deal. Right after that room, we have another medallion coming up. The solution for this one is Fish Scorpion Vase. Back in the library, it is vital to grab this knife when you enter the room. Afterwards, we can run past this zombie and move the bookshelf once. You can see me exit the room after placing the detonator here. The reason for this is because there is a shelf that will fall in front of the door if you don't do this. Then when you go back into the room, do your best to not get blown up by the explosion. You can do this a variety of ways. The final medallion is just beyond the wall, and its solution is woman's face, bow, snake. Once we've grabbed the medallion, there's going to be a licker that comes down from the ceiling, and to avoid him attacking you, all you have to do is stare at the ceiling. Also, I quickly forgot that you need to pick up the hip pouch in that room, so make sure you get that. I grabbed it when I was running away from the detonator. These zombies at the base of the ladder are very luck-based, so don't be too worried if you get bit here, it's very common. Finally, we're going to leave the library and come down these stairs to insert the 3 medallions. This caps off the section dubbed RPD1. If you'd like to move on to the next section, you can go to this timestamp. If you'd like to continue learning some of the smaller details regarding RPD1, just continue watching. To use the gas station key as fast as possible, you have to flick your mouse cursor over to the key, press left click and your other interact button at around the same time. Here is the alternative faster line for these 2 zombies in streets. To avoid the radio call continuing once you've fallen through the floor, you must stop moving for a moment before dropping. When you do fall through the floor, shake your mouse a bit. For some bizarre reason, the female zombie will ignore you if you do this correctly. Again, to use this key quickly, you must flick your mouse cursor to the 4th slot of your inventory. It's okay if you go past it, because the cursor will settle on the last item that you went by. To avoid the stagger from the helicopter crash, simply turn your character to the right. This will make them stagger to the left and push you forward a bit. To get this shift boost consistently, simply wait for the round handle to stop making a noise before you press shift. Now I'm going to show off 4 examples of getting past this licker. The last 2 examples are the most important because it shows off a very important way of avoiding the licker's grab attack, which loses upwards of 6 seconds. Right here you can see the licker jump in front of me. When he does this, it 100% means that he's going to go for his lunging grab. To prevent him from doing this, all you need to do is shoot him. If you have trouble reacting to the licker jumping in front of you, you can always pause just to let yourself react. Pausing does not count towards the in-game timer, so you're not punished for doing so. Lastly, in certain instances you can tap aim to do a lunge forward when picking up, interacting, or placing certain items. In this example, you can see I lunge towards the wall to place the detonator. This is faster because occasionally running towards some objects will cause your character to slow down a little bit. Onto RPD2, this section is in my opinion the most difficult to nail. It is also the most densely packed section with a ton of different enemy behaviors to become familiar with. We also get introduced to dogs, which are heavily luck-based and extremely annoying. Before we get into all of that, I'm going to show you how to kill G1 as quick as possible. In this example kill, you can see I simply run up to him, pull out my knife, and begin slashing his midsection. After 7 slashes, you will begin moving to the right and adjusting your knife direction to hit as much of him as you can. After 3 more slashes, stare at the floor to knife his mutated arm and body at the same time, then back up a bit to get his legs and torso for 2 slashes. And finally, look down for the last few slashes. The least slashes ever recorded for killing him is 14, but generally 16 to 18 is okay. You don't want to go above 19 because at that point he can hurt you. This last example is my best kill ever. If you look at his health in the top left, you can see that after 13 slashes he had 2% left. I believe it's possible under the right circumstances to kill him in 13, but I'm too lazy to work on it. Now entering the garage, firstly we have to interact with the kiosk to trigger Ada's cutscene. This door she walks through is on a timer once she walks through it, so I wait a little bit to get a good angle. Once you make it to Ben's cutscene, you can grab this crank handle and begin running towards the other side of the garage. In this room, we pick up the first electronic part, then make our way towards the switch puzzle. The solution for this puzzle is to turn switches 3 and 4. You can go left to reach switch 4 immediately. Here we are introduced to the dogs. To avoid this first one, simply mimic the line that I run. Luckily, this first section doesn't have very much randomness until the second to last dog, so all hits can be avoided with good movement until that moment. To dodge this dog, run towards the blank wall, then use the black line on the floor as a reference to know when you should turn your camera towards the door. You will often get bit in this last hallway because the game sucks a little bit. In this save room, we pick up the second fuse. I'd recommend at some point making a save here with the typewriter because this section coming up has a couple very important moments and the autosave really sucks to have to go through each time. Back at the shutter, we have 2 active zombies in our way. Using this method of dodging, the zombies will have 2 patterns. In this case, I got the bad one where I had to do a quick turn dodge to get past the second guy. Right after we put the fuse in, pick up the knife that is on the wall and begin running backwards towards the zombies. Here we want to get grabbed because it allows us to get rid of an unneeded knife and also lower our DA slightly while losing a very small amount of time. There is an herb in this window in case you need it. Here we have another awful section coming up. There's 2 zombies inside of this room guarding the club key, and we also have to pull this lever. So to do this optimally, you run up to the lever, turn towards the door just before hitting the lever. Your distance from the door is very important here. If you're too fast, you'll get grabbed by the lady, and if you're too slow, you'll get grabbed by the guy. Once we grab the club key, we come out and shoot this lady, the stunner. And then here I do a little pause just to check and see if the zombie is right outside the door. Just a few seconds ago I discarded the crank handle from earlier. We do this to free up a space for the library jack, which we're going to pick up soon. You can discard the crank handle at any point before picking up the library jack. I just tend to do it straight after that room there. We've finally come to our first encounter with Mr. X here. You can see I line myself up with this wall while aiming down sight, and then I'll start aiming at Mr. X. If you're a certain distance away from him, this will force him to do his sweeping attack, and as soon as he initiates the attack, you can run forward. This just takes a little practice, and once you get used to it, it's very simple. Heading back to the West Hall to grab the library jack, there's going to be a licker in our path. When you enter this room, you're going to want to stare at the ceiling to make him jump up. From there, you can shoot him, which will force him to despawn when you come back through. So we're going to run over here, use the club key, grab the library jack, and come back through. Since we shot the licker earlier, Mr. X is almost guaranteed to show up in this hallway. So to dodge out of his way, we just simply have to run up to him and bait his attack, run backwards, and then run past him. Here we're going to do a manipulation for the library zombies. We're going to shoot right here once we reach this bench. This will prevent the zombie inside from biting you. Unfortunately, there's still a chance that the other zombies bite you while you're moving the shelf, but it greatly lessens your odds of getting bit. Here you can see me do a small manipulation for this zombie outside of the clock tower. If you get him to lunge for you, he won't be right outside the door once you come back out. This cop zombie across from the clock tower is very random. There's plenty of patterns where you don't have to shoot him at all. In this case, I risked it and didn't have to shoot him, but most of the time I'd recommend just shooting him. Here we're at easily one of the hardest points in the run. This zombie on the ground can be in your way and you have to shoot him. There's 2 more zombies that will most likely be in your way and you'll probably have to shoot them. Here I just show a quick example, but obviously in your game it's going to be different. Just do your best to practice this and make sure you can hit your shots. And finally for RPD, we have one more really annoying section that you'll probably lose plenty of runs to. The dogs in the first room aren't usually that bad, but the second room is absolutely terrible. There's going to be plenty of times where you'll get hit and have absolutely no way of avoiding it. So just do your best. Follow the lines that I show in this video. That's your best bet to avoid getting hit. Here we have the electronic puzzle, which I'll provide the solution for. You can pause to make sure that you see the whole thing. And it's slowed down as well, so you can just copy that. Finally, we're going to be leaving the RPD, but first we have to get through the prison section. Here in the video, I'm going to show you the normal strategy, which is shooting the zombie in the head and then throwing a flash. There is an alternative strategy where you don't use a flash. You can see this in the world record video. It's very difficult and very little time saved, so for 99% of people, I just recommend using the flash. Once again, you can choose to go to this timestamp to go to the next section of the game, or you can continue watching from here and learn a little bit more about the section you just watched. Earlier in the video, I mentioned that there were a few tough sections that come up after the kennels area. This one in particular I wanted to bring attention to because of how far away the closest save is. Our last autosave was actually in the kennels, which was over 2 minutes away from here. The closest typewriter is 1.5 minutes away with another section that you have to get through. So I wanted to show off this mod, which actually allows you to make saves wherever you want. So here we have it. This is the RE2 Remake Ultimate Trainer. This will be linked in the description. You can get it off of Nexus Mods. Using this, we can go to the Miscellaneous tab, scroll down here, Quick Save Manager, and here we can just make an autosave wherever we want. So say to practice this section, we can just make an autosave, and then go do it, instead of playing through the over 2 minutes of gameplay that you have to do to get back here. You can just do it once, load the autosave, and do it again. Here I wanted to quickly show off a small technique that I learned about actually very recently. I started making this video about 6 or so months ago, but then I began running the game again, and I found something cool. So it turns out there's a faster way to throw equipment and to pull out your knife faster. For our sake, it's really only faster to throw grenades and throw flashes. It totals out to be about 0.45 seconds of time save, and it's completely free, so I might as well show it off. If you're running or moving forward at all, and you just throw a flashbang, it takes about a second for the flashbang to come out. But if you're moving, and you know, generally we're moving in a speedrun, so this technique will pretty much always be usable. If you hold down space, or your sub-weapon button, and mouse 2, so your aim button, it will actually pull out 0.15 faster. So it is faster to hold these 3 buttons down to throw equipment. Finally, I just wanted to show off one quick technique that was discovered after I started making this video. This technique is called Quickdrawing. It's an even smaller time save than some of the other movement techniques I've showed off, but I did want to add it just for the sake of completion. So normally when you fire your gun, you just aim and shoot, right? But there's actually a way to draw your weapon just a little bit faster. So if you tap space to pull out your sub-weapon, it will actually cancel the time it takes to lift your gun up into the air, which, according to the person who discovered it, Shots, saves 0.06 seconds per time you shoot. So again, very small time save, but just wanted to add it for this sake. So we tap space, and then we fire. So I pull out the gun a little bit faster. You can combine this with the shot boost technique that I mentioned earlier, and your shots will look like this. So that's super quick compared to the normal shot, which loses about 0.4 seconds. This one only loses 0.2. Alright, so now that we're done with RPD, I'm going to just switch to watching my PB instead of getting new footage, because I'm a little bit lazy. So after RPD, there's just a 4.5 minute walking section. Very boring. We're going to pick up a grenade, so I'm going to make sure the inventory is accurate, and you should pay attention here, because inventory is very important. After this 4.5 minute walking simulator, though, we'll get ADA section, which is very exciting, and quite technically difficult. So yeah, let's get to it. Here you can see me kind of be bad at the game for a second. I tried to put the nade in too fast. So the slot it's supposed to go in is the very bottom right slot that I have right now, and I put it back after messing it up. Alright, so for ADA section, we're going to be hacking stuff with this EMF visualizer tool. One thing to note about this is that spam clicking is significantly faster than just holding the button down, so you're going to want to be mashing mouse 1 here a lot. So throughout ADA section, you can see that I don't fully complete the hacks before I begin running away from them. This is pretty dangerous, but I have a good sense of when I can start running. Early on, you should just complete the hacks and make sure that you get it done, because you don't want to run into a situation where you start running before the hack is finished. Avoiding this zombie grabbing you is actually quite difficult. You can see I have very precise movement throughout this area, and it is very important to have that, otherwise he will grab you. So if you're not comfortable with the movement system just yet, you can either shoot him or take the long path around the right side. Once we pick up this wristband, you're going to want to empty the rest of your handgun ammo. We do this because it actually lowers the DA. DA again meaning difficulty adjustment. So when you spawn in as Ada, you have 9 bullets, which is equivalent to 90 DA. And by firing the 8 we have left over here, we'll lose 80 points worth of DA, which is very helpful and super important for labs later on. So we're towards the end of Ada's section now, and we have to deal with the furnace section. I made an entire guide to this a very long time ago. It's kind of outdated and not great, but it does the trick if you want to learn the fastest way of doing this. If you want to learn just the basic way of doing this, you can watch some of the older runs on speedrun.com. But yeah, for this sake, I'm obviously doing it in the fastest way. So now we're done with Ada's section, and we're back as Leon, and we're going to be officially entering the sewers now. The sewers is honestly probably the easiest section between the three, RPD, sewers, and labs. There's plenty that can go wrong still, of course, but it's more smooth and less input heavy. And it also only has about 2 instances of randomness, which is very nice for us. So here we have our first zombie encounter in sewers. It's very simple. We just shoot the zombie in the back of the head. You can see I'm making use of the quick draw mechanic here, just to save a little time. Next, we're going to want to make sure we pick up this knife here, and I'm going to put it down 2 slots so it's in line with the grenade. Inventory, again, is very important here. We really want to save inputs as much as we can, and having this knife down here is good. Here we have our first encounter with the G-Adult. For this case, we're just going to want to shoot him, and we need to be a certain distance away. If you shoot too late, you'll get staggered by him coming up, and if you shoot too early, you could end up getting grabbed. It's not really that restrictive, though, so just, watch the video and shoot in that general area. We're now picking up the T-bar handle key item. I'm going to put it in the slot that is down right from the first slot. This way I can just use the keyboard to get to it and I don't have to flick my mouse or do any of that weird stuff. In this room, we have 2 zombies that we have to deal with. One of them is asleep. The other one is at the bottom of the stairs who's kind of waiting to grab us. Luckily though, for this guy, on this category, you don't really have to worry about it. Just stair skate down these stairs and head to the right. So right here you can see that I intentionally let this zombie grab me. The reason I do this is because while the gate is raising, we don't actually lose time for this. And I haven't taken damage at all previously in this run, so I want my DA to be low enough for labs that zombies aren't going to be tanking headshots super commonly. If you have taken damage in your run, you do not have to do this. In this room, we're going to be grabbing the second hip pouch and then heading out this door to grab the first chest puzzle piece. I put this puzzle piece down right twice. This makes for a really good menu when you finally go to put the chest pieces in. There is a pack of 10 handgun ammo just as soon as you come back into this room. It's on the left. I don't really show it very well in the video, but in case you need extra ammo, it's there. This is one of the 2 random sections in sewers that is absolutely abysmal on Leon. It's not as bad for Claire. She can avoid these zombies much easier. The pattern I got in this pretty much required me to shoot both zombies, but I got kind of lucky. I almost choked the runaway here. So I shoot the first guy in the head and then just jump up. As I said, this is random. I really can't recommend doing anything to prevent you from losing a run here. You should just practice it a little bit, do it a few times. It's going to be different. Just be prepared and ready to go when you actually do runs. So we have 2 G-Adults here that we have to shoot. The first one is very simple. You just shoot him while he's in the water and then run past. The second one is a bit more challenging. So the way you want to shoot this guy is to be a certain distance away from him before you shoot him. I really don't have a sense of explaining this. I just kind of go by feel and intuition. Definitely practice this and use the trainer to make a save here so you can practice it much easier because the autosave is very far away. Exiting out of this chess puzzle room, we're going to be encountering the G-Adults again. This is the second instance of RNG in sewers, and this one is definitely the worst. I'm going to be showing a couple examples from old runs of different cases here. In the first one, you can see the G-Adult spits babies, which is a good sign. It means 99% of the time you can just run to the right side of the G-Adult and get past without getting hit. In the second example you just saw, you get a more normal pattern where you just have to bait the G-Adult's attack and then run backwards and run forwards again. In my run, I got very lucky. There's no G-Adult in my path, so I didn't have to deal with anything. Very nice when you get this RNG. We have our final encounter with the G-Adult here. Using the fast strat, you'll have to shoot him 3 times in the eyeball. This is very difficult, and it doesn't really save that much time, so I'm also going to just show the normal strategy that I'd recommend beginners use. So for this strategy, you just simply climb up on the little ledge, and wait a second before jumping down, wait for the G-Adult to do his attack, and then you can run by. Alright, so now we're heading into the G2 boss fight, which caps off the sewer section. You're going to want to make sure your grenade is equipped before you do this puzzle here, which is turning switches 1, 2, and 4. Once you finish the puzzle, you're going to begin running backwards, and once you hit this little floor grate, you're going to want to start throwing your grenade. This is going to make G2 instantly skip the phase where he shoves his hand through the floor over and over again, and this saves about 15 seconds. For Leon, we want to stick to this right side of the gate that G2 is opening here. It prevents him from attacking you too early, which is super bad. You want to get to the end of this bridge pretty quickly, so don't have too many movement mistakes here, otherwise the fight is going to be completely messed up. So we're getting over to the crane switch right now, and what we're going to do is we're going to hit it and then run backwards to bait out G2's attack. He has 2 attacks. He can do his jumping swing, or he can do his triple slash attack. Both of them are fine. There's no real variance in time loss or anything like that. It just changes the fight slightly. Here in the video, you can see I got the triple slash RNG, so I wait for him to complete his attack before I begin knifing him. Our goal here is to get him below 50% health so that the crane kills him in one hit. So since I got the triple slash RNG, I'm going to break my knife on him, do a couple more slashes, and then run over to the button. After we hit the button for the second time, you're going to run back to him and get him below 50% HP. Once we've gotten him below 50% HP, he's going to do his charging attack. So we're going to wait for him to get pretty close to us, and then we're going to start running towards the button. Here's an example of the jumping attack that G2 can do. In this old run, I actually had a worse PC, so my FPS was not very good here, but it shows that you can still get this fight done even if your FPS is not perfect. And something I forgot to mention earlier is you can definitely lower your graphics settings for this fight, because this is the most FPS intensive fight. If you need a bit more guidance for that fight, I'll have another video linked in the description, but if not, we are pretty much done with the sewer section, so we're going to be moving on to labs now. One quick thing that I forgot to mention in the G2 fight is the items that you need to pick up. So we're going to be picking up these handgun bullets and the flashbang and the knife that are in the corner here. Alright, finishing the sewer section, we are headed down to labs with Ada here. After you skip this cutscene, she's going to give you the wristband, and then we're going to get into the labs. So now that we're entering labs, I want to just go over what labs really is like compared to the other sections. I think it's a really solid middle ground between sewers and RPD, where RPD is a lot of RNG, a lot of inputs. There's a lot to learn in RPD, Sewers is relatively straightforward, not a ton of RNG. Labs is basically the middle of those two. There's some RNG. You're not going to be losing a lot of time to it, but it's a lot to learn. But not nearly as much to learn as something like RPD. Right here, we're heading to pick up the level 2 wristband, and on our way, we're going to pick up our final knife. Something to note about labs is that now we're at level 6 DA. After we did all that damage to G2, our DA went up. So now zombies have a 10 to 20-ish% chance of tanking headshots. There's only 2 zombies we really need to worry about here at this point, so it's not too bad. You're not going to encounter too many issues with it. In this area, we're just going to run past this Ivy, who is completely harmless for the time being. We're going to pick up the flash that's right here while we go over to do this puzzle. You can do this puzzle in whichever order you prefer. I prefer to do it this way. I do 3, 1, 2, 3 first, and second I do 2, 0, 6, 7. Right here, we're going to be picking up our third to last key item. It's the empty canister. Yeah. Now that we have the empty canister, we're going to be filling it up at this puzzle over here. The solution for this is just red, green, blue, red, green, blue, red, green. To get past the Ivies here, we just have to make sure our aim is good. You can just shoot their yellow bulbs and they'll be stunned for quite a while. If you miss and they stagger, that means that you got a crit and they will wake up much earlier. So if you get a crit, it's very dangerous to run past unless you're certain you can get to the ladder in this case very quickly. A licker is going to come down from the ceiling, and just like earlier in the run, we're going to stare at the ceiling to avoid the licker licking you. Grabbing our second to last key item here is the signal modulator. With this, we're going to have to do a couple puzzles, but first we have to get through the stairs zombies here. Here you can see me absolutely terrified because I'm on a good pace. But yeah, this guy should always take one shot as long as you're on 60. If you're on 7, he's highly likely to tank. And the second guy also is quite common to tank, even on 6, so just be aware of that. Coming back into this room, we have the notorious lab lickers section. Once you reach this pillar, you're going to shoot at the ground, look back up, and then throw the flashbang. Because we shot at the ground, the 2 lickers will jump up to the ceiling, and the flashbang's duration will increase so much so that we can just get through this room easily. The solutions for the 2 signal modulator puzzles will be linked in the description. Here you can see I actually messed up, which is unfortunate, so I ended up losing about 2.5 seconds in this split. 95% of the time on Leon, you can get through this room just fine. But there is a rare chance that zombies are super close to you in the hallway, and you'll have to shoot early, which can mess things up completely. When we come back into the lab lickers room, there's a chance that zombies are going to be right outside the door camping waiting for you, and there's really nothing you can do about it aside from hope that you can get out of their way in time. But we're just going to focus on where to throw the flash. So once you reach the blood stain on the floor, that's when you're going to want to prep the flash and throw it. That should give you enough time to make it around the corner and make it to the door before the lickers can hit you. Because I got lucky in my PB and didn't have any IVs in my path, I decided to show footage from one of my old runs here. So this is the worst case RNG where there's 2 IVs in your path, and this is how you should handle it. After we use the frozen cartridge key item, we're going to head back into this room and grab the level 3 wristband. This Ivy here poses no threat to you as long as you quick turn at this corner and have good movement. Here we have one of the very last instances of RNG in labs. This Ivy, which I got lucky with again, he was not a threat to me at all. If I'm honest, I'd rather just see players shoot this guy because on Leon, with how slow he is, it's better to just be safe than lose a run here, as I've lost several. If you've lost a knife at any point in labs, you can actually pick up a grenade that's on the zombie's body right here. With that, you can do an alternative G3 strat, and that way you don't instantly lose a run if you lose a knife. The alternate strat is linked in the description, and again alongside the solution to this signal modulator puzzle. The G3 fight goes as follows. We begin the fight by running towards him, and we're going to try and slash him 5 times. We want to ideally pop the eye on the 5th slash. Once you pop the eye, you want to do 3 slashes and then run away from him. This will cause him to do his ground pound attack, and then we're going to equip a different knife while he's doing the attack. With our freshly equipped knife, we're going to knife his shoulder eye. This one is very tricky, the angle is quite precise, so usually it takes about 2 to 3 slashes. After we pop the shoulder eye, we're going to want to run immediately to the back eye. This is the trickiest angle of them all. I've never quite figured out a good way of explaining how to knife this accurately. Just do your best to copy what I'm doing. Once we've successfully popped the back eye, we're going to start slashing his back/shoulders area. You're going to want to stand pretty far away here because if your knife clips through his body and catches the eyeballs, which is extremely easy to do by the way, he will instantly stand up and that will ruin your fight. Here you can see I'm tapping 2 to see what my knife health is. This is important because if you break a knife, you're going to be losing too much time and you're not going to be able to get the 1 cycle. Once you're ready to switch knives, you go into your inventory, equip the knife, and then unequip your handgun. This will cancel out Leon putting the knife away and then bringing it back out. Here, if you pay attention, you can see G3 lift his body up slightly. This means that he's about to stand up and is a perfect visual cue for when you should turn your body towards his chest eyes. For the rest of the fight, you're going to want to be hitting his chest eyes as much as possible. You can see I kind of rotate with his arm to slash his arm, his leg, and his chest eyes at the same time. This is just for maximum damage. And that pretty much concludes the G3 fight. This will be the boss fight that you spend the majority of your time practicing early on because of how challenging it is. So don't be discouraged if it's too difficult for you at first. It is a thing that many players struggle with and you will eventually get used to it. And don't forget to learn the alternative strategy. You really don't want to do a whole run just to lose a knife in labs and then not be able to kill G3. So we're on to the final 2 minutes of the game here, and we have 3 more things to get past. First up is these 2 IVs that are in our way. The first one you can bait with a precisely timed shot. The second one is a bit more unreliable, so you can either choose to do the bait that I do in the video, or just simply shoot him when you get close to him. And the second to last thing we have to deal with here is Mr. X popping up in our way. We avoid him the same way that we avoided him earlier, by aiming at him from a certain distance away, and then waiting for him to do a sweeping attack. Picking up our final key item of the run here is the joint plug. Once you place the joint plug, the fight is going to begin with Super Tyrant. The first thing you do in this fight is run up to him and begin slashing him. You can see in the video that I get one stagger, I wait a little bit for him to recover, and then I begin slashing again. Our goal here is to get 3 staggers. By doing the 3 staggers, we save about a minute waiting for the timer in this fight. Now that we've gotten our 3 staggers, we're going to perform the classic Mr. X dance. This part of the run is boring once you're familiar with it, but very scary when you're not so familiar. Basically, you just want to stand where his left arm is, not the mutated one, of course. If you're behind him, he can do a sweeping attack behind him, and that will get you hit. So just stay around his arm and in front of his chest. That is the safe spot. If there's rocks nearby, you want to be very careful because if he hits the rocks, it will hit you. Once we've made it to the end of the Mr. X dance, Ada's going to throw us the rocket launcher, and we're just going to kill Mr. X with it. I'm showing 2 strats here. The fast one that saves half a second. The way you perform this strat is by tapping space just before you pick up the rocket launcher, holding mouse 1 and 2 as you're picking it up, and holding backwards as well. Or you can just do the regular one where you bait out his attack, and then grab the launcher, and then kill him. The fast strategy only saves 0.5, so I would not recommend learning it unless you're going for a top time. Well, we are at the end of the game now. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it helped. I hope that it was informative. I've never tried to make such a big guide like this before, and I really hope it comes across well. If you have any questions, want to learn more about the game, you can send me a message on Discord. I will please message you back. Yeah, thank you so much. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Have a nice day.